Hello everyone, this is Dungeon Master Loba coming at you guys with another video. Got my mic on here because it seemed to have helped the last time. Let's get closer because I noticed at times I was a little quiet. Anyways, this time we're going to be talking about magical items in role-playing games. Particularly talking about D&D, but it can be suited to anything. Let's get started with creating magical items. Well, when you create magical items, the standard rules, I'm not completely familiar with the Dungeons & Dragons standard rules, but I know they go something along the lines of you need X amount of gold with X amount of XP with X amount of time, which, get rid of that. That's the first thing you should drop. Those rules are stupid, and one, XP loss is just, that's the players. They earn their XP through whatever means, and I just don't like taking XP away from players, and it can also unbalance the game, make somebody higher level than somebody else, and that's just mechanically speaking. And then role-playingly speaking, it's no fun to go into a game and say, oh, well, I want this +3 longsword, so I'm gonna spend 2,000 XP and like 1,000 gold, and then there you go. I mean, I think it's cost more than that to make a +3 longsword, but you get the idea. Instead, make them go out, find ingredients, find an enchanter if they're not an enchanter, make a whole quest line out of it. Make the sword, give them a chance to name it. Don't say, alright, you have a +3 longsword. Say you have, I don't know, Glamdrain the Foehammer. Like, those are the swords you remember. You don't remember Rusty's +3 longsword. Make these swords memorable, and make then the axes and the warhammers and the helmets and the amulets, and make these things memorable. Don't just make them an amulet of water breathing. Like, make them something that's like, a lot deeper than that, and just have like a better feel to it, and just a better meaning behind everything. And my friend's messaging me on Facebook right now, but I'll get him in a minute. Yeah, just put depth into the item creation. And now, moving on to the mechanics of it, I think that some magic items are overpowered, some are underpowered, but I'll leave that to your game preferences. I don't want to delve too deep into that. I want to focus more on the role-playing aspect here. For the amount of magical items in your world, I wouldn't put too many. If you put too many magical items, like I just said, it makes it more memorable if you have like 1 or 2 magical items per character, or maybe even they find an entire campaign. Like, I mean, if it's a really big campaign, then yeah, there could be more, but don't, like, oh, you go kill this skeleton and then you get a +1 dagger, you get a +2 shield, and yada 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 yada. Don't make magic items loot unless they're loot off an extremely powerful hero or villain, and don't make them like random in a dungeon loot type things, because they should be memorable moments when your characters get their first +1 sword. And like, make it so that they make these swords have names, make these items have names, make them have stories, maybe give them a little bit more than just being a +1 sword. Maybe it's a +1 sword that gives you +2 to intimidate, if we're talking about Dungeons & Dragons rule system here. All these little quirks can make the things just so much better. Maybe you can give them an intelligent sword or something like that, which could be fun to play as like an NPC character. Like, they have some interesting concepts in the Dungeon Master's Guide for how to make intelligent weapons, and the sword like that. If you want to make up custom magical items, like I said, go all out with it. I made a whole little set of custom magical music boxes that I talked a little about in one of my last videos, from a dungeon delve. And I plan on making a new video dedicated to each of those, telling you exactly how they work in case you want to use any of them in your games. But I literally did not look at the item creation rules at all. I just went all out and said, okay, this is what I want to happen, so this is what I'm going to do with it. And it worked perfectly. They were kind of cursed, but they were kind of, like, evil in origin and very hard to destroy. They're more artifacts than magical items, and one of them was a big center of a good chunk of the campaign, the first chunk of the campaign. Another one was a center around an entire dungeon, and then they had a few adventures after the dungeon finding out what to do with it because they couldn't destroy it. They tried to. They said they had an adventure set around that. So with the old magical items, I mean, you can take inspiration. Like if you are a fan of video games, you could take the portal gun and put it into Dungeons and Dragons and make a bunch of puzzle rooms like that. If you're into those kind of things, or if you want to be really wacky and innovative, you could just take like one of those old cartoon things and you just plop a black hole down and then somebody fall through it, like in one of the old cartoons. Or maybe there's like an illusionary wall that is really a portal that somebody runs through, somebody else runs into it, they hit into the wall. You know, all these wacky things could be incorporated into it. You could get a lot darker, like maybe an Iron Maiden who doubles as a golem, who feeds off of the blood of their victims, and they get more power from it that way. Like everybody who's put in there that Iron Maiden, the golem is like a magical sentient being, or just controlled being that gets power from the blood of the people that get thrown in it. Or there's so much you can do with magical items that the book kind of covers, but it also kind of doesn't. But like I said, just let your imagination run wild when using magical items. I mean, yeah, you got to be careful. You might make them OP and break your game. You might accidentally kill all your players, or you might accidentally have your players with a nearly unstoppable item, which there's a lot of fixes to that. You can either just straight up tell them it was a mistake and take it back if they're understanding, or if they're going to make a big fuss about it and you don't feel like going through all that, you can just take it from them in game. Your DM, you could say the item's power goes off, you could say somebody steals it from them, whatever you want to do. If they're going to make a fuss out of it out of game, just say okay, whatever, and then just do it in game. I mean, I'm not saying you should do this for items they earned and like just leave them hanging, but like if they're misusing something that you didn't realize was broken and they refuse to step down about it, then yeah, you're definitely in your right as a DM to take that from them. But this has been Dungeon Master Blowball on magical items. I'm going to have a couple new videos coming up soon, maybe within the next few days. If you have any suggestions, leave them down in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Dungeon Master Blowball, signing out.